Yeah.
We see you and hear you perfectly.
No, I think I meant to live
No,
stream
it
it
says
YouTube.
this meeting is being live streamed.
Oh, it does?
Yeah,
Oh, my.
on my phone.
Oh, okay. All right. That's
On
great.
my Zoom too.
Well, that's wonderful.
Mine also. Meeting is now streaming live on YouTube.
All right. That's grand.
So I need to say I made a mistake and I thought the meeting was at 12 and I have to leave at 1. So I'm sorry.
That's
But I'll
okay.
be here
Well,
till then.
that's the reason why we have it on YouTube also, so that afterward people can also,
Okay.
get it on YouTube if they miss or they have to go or whatever it is. Okay. So that's one of the reasons why we do that. So that's grand. Okay. So we're on YouTube and we're recording and we're doing everything. That's amazing. Technology works great. Okay. Very good. All right. So let's start off with our prayer. Where's it gone? Oh dear, heavens above. I feel like I'm in Grand Central Station. I'll just tell them I'm busy. Hello? Oh dear, right. Okay, one of those. Now, what do I need to do? Prayer. So do share screen. That's it. Great. And Nicole's come. That's very nice. Okay, wonderful. Okay, very good. So let's begin. ריבון עולמים ואדוני אדונים, אב הרחמן והסליחות, מודים אנחנו לפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ולאבותינו, בקידה בשתחוויה, שקרבתנו לתורתך ולעבודתך עבודת הקודש, ונתת לנו חלק בסודות תורתך הקדושה, מה אנו ומה חיינו, אשר עשית עמנו חסד גדול כזה, על כן אנחנו מפילים תחנוננו לפניך, שתמחול ותסלח לכל חטאותינו ועוונותינו, ואל יהיו עוונותינו מבדילים בינינו לביניך, וכן יהי רצון מלפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ולאבותינו, שתכונן את לבבינו ליראתך ולבבך, ותקשיב אוזניך לדברינו אלה, ותפתח לבבינו הערל בסודות תורתך, ויהיה לימודנו זה נחת רוח, לפני כיסא כבודך כריח ניחוח, ותציל עלינו, עומק כל נשמתנו בכל בחינתנו, שיתנוצצו ניצוצות עבודיך הקדושים, אשר על ידם גלית דבריך אלה בעולם, וזכותם, וזכות אבותם, וזכות תורתם ותמינותם וקדושתם, יעמוד לנו לבל נכשל בדברים אלו, ובזכותם תאיר עינינו במה שאנו לומדים, כמה אמנאים זמירות ישראל, גל עיני והביט הנפלאות מתורתך, כי אדוני תן חוכמה מפיו דעת ותבונה, יולרות צונים מפי, ויגון ליבי לפניך, אדוני צורי וגואלי. Amen.
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 Yeah, and I really want to, our prayer, our learning, everything should be dedicated for the Shalom Haaretz, for the peace in the country, and for the welfare of all its people, and for the hostages, that somehow or other God should bring them out from darkness into light, and for a refuah shalema to all the soldiers who've been wounded.
Amen.
Okay, right. So let's go to stop share of that, and let's go to our learning. Wait a minute. It's not showing it. Let's find it. Here it is. Now let me do share screen again. Why doesn't it show it? Here it is. There you go. Amazing. Okay. All right, very good. So what we're going to learn today is a couple of things. And the issue is that there isn't a Zohar on Devarim. Okay? I suppose there was once, and we don't have one at the moment. It got lost or something. I don't know. But anyhow, we don't have a Zohar on Devarim. So we're going to be looking at the inner meanings of Devarim, and also the fact that Devarim is always the Sidra, which is the parasha, which is always read before Tisha BAv. Always, okay? So in other words, so, you know, they double sometimes Matot and Masai up together, so to make sure that Devarim is always the one which is for Tisha BAv. And the reason is, as far as I understand it, is because Moshe Rabbeinu opens his Mishneh Torah, his second time that he goes over all the Torah for the people of Israel before they're going to go into the land and before he's going to leave them. He goes over it all again, and he starts off with Tochacha. He starts off with rebuke, okay? And the issue of rebuke is not to make the issue of rebuke is not to make people feel bad. The issue of rebuke is that we can't actually receive the light unless there's a vessel for the light. Okay, what is a vessel for the light? In order to actually want to receive God's goodness, we actually have to desire it first. Okay, so if we want to come to dveikut with God, if we want to come to unity with God, the first thing we need to do is actually figure out what, or see in ourselves what the lack of unity of God actually causes us. All right, and this is when we are sorry about that, then we really, really, really want to come to the light. And this is what Rabbi Asher talks about a lot. It's the value when the light comes from the darkness. So the issue of the people, you know, during the time in the wilderness, they had many, many ups and downs, many difficulties. And so I think what Moshe Rabbeinu is doing when he reminds them he starts off his Mishneh Torah, he starts off with mentioning all the different places where they sinned, because he starts off with all the different sins and all the different places, okay? And in fact, the Rashi says that these are not actual places. They are hints of the sins which took place in those places. I mean, a lot of those names are not actual, you know, geographical places. They're places where the sins happened, okay? And so Barati Yetzer Hara, Barati Torah Tavlin, I created the evil inclination, I created the Torah as its healing. In other words, it's only when we can see and feel sorry about our evil inclination, our will to receive for ourselves alone, then we really, really, really want to come to unity with God. And how do we do that? Through the Torah. So then we really need the light of the Torah. Okay, so it's a way of reminding us how much we need the Torah, is to awaken within the people the reminder of what the sin, not in order to make people feel bad, but in order to awaken the need for the light of the Torah, which he's going to give them. Okay, so this is an amazing piece which I found from Likutei Halachot, okay, which I liked very much because it brings like this sort of tochacha, this rebuke, in a positive way, okay, and actually that's what it is. It is about seeing the positive in the negative, if you see what I mean. And then we're going to look at the sort of similar idea also for Tisha BAv, okay? All right. Elu dvarim asher diber Moshe. These are the things which Moses spoke. Al kain izkir kol hamakomot shechisu lefanav. Therefore, he mentions all the places where the children of Israel messed up, okay? All right. so because he wants to create within them the vessels to receive the light. Kol hamakomot daika, all the places specifically, ki bazeh hiskir lahem zechut v'chesed. And in this way, he actually bringing them in a way of merit and a way of loving kindness. Kukiem din et chavercha ad shtagir limkomo. Because what he's actually doing, he's fulfilling the fact that don't judge your friend until you get to his place. Ki hu zacha le'echos bekisei hakavod b'chinat ma'achaz pnei kisei. He, Moshe Rabbeinu, he merited to reach the throne of glory because he was able to, he reached the place where he was able to converse with God, panim b'panim. Which is the sort of like the awareness of God. המקומות בעצמם גרמו להם לחטוא, כי עברו במדבר מקום נחש, שרף, עקרב וצמאון. He knew that all these places, okay, it wasn't necessarily places, like physical, geographical places. It was situations, okay, that God himself had led the children of Israel into, and because they were in those situations where their will to receive for themselves alone got the better of them, that was what caused them to sin, okay? They went through different areas, different places in the wilderness being they cannot see the light of God, okay? It was hidden from them. And it said, Mahom Nachash, Saraf, Vakrav, Tzima'on. These are all areas of consciousness which are the klipot and the sitra achra. So when they came to these difficult consciousnesses of trial, of difficulty, okay, they were liable to sin because they had to fight against their own wills to receive, which were difficult and which were too strong, sometimes too strong for them. So sometimes they weren't able to stand up to the test and they fell down. I mean, we all come to these places in our lives, all right? Sometimes bigger, sometimes smaller. Sometimes it seems just like a habit we can't deal with. Sometimes it's an actual situation, okay? And I think what Rabbi Nachman here is really pointing out is we think that, we lead ourselves into these situations, but it isn't. It's God takes us into these situations for us to be able to, if you like, grow our spiritual muscles, all right, to grow our desire to connect with God. Because without the experience of the separation, without the experience of the sin, without the experience of the falling down, we actually cannot value how much we need the connection. Do you see what I'm saying? So God sometimes deliberately takes us into these negative areas within ourselves, okay? Not in order to, not in order, dafka, to make us fall down, but for us to work with it, okay? And sometimes we manage and sometimes we don't, but to make us realize how much we need his light. Okay? And Kamosha Amu Rabutenu, this is another example. Al Pasuk Vayeshev Yisrael B'Shittim, Israel dwelt in Shittim. Shamakom Garam Lem Lachto, and apparently the sort of situation that they were in Shittim, which was where Baal Pa'or took place, that caused them to sin. נמצא שבזה שהזכיר את המקומות די כשהכניסו לפניו, בזה המציא להם זכות, בחינת הזכות של ראש השנה, שהוא אל תדין את חברך שתגיע למקומו. So here Moshe Rabbeinu is starts off by mentioning the different places where the children of Israel annoyed God, in the sense, not that he gets annoyed, but, fell down, sinned, did the wrong thing, okay? All right. But when we come to tshuva, we come to don't judge your friend till you get to his place. In other words, we come to places within ourselves. We come to different desires within ourselves. And it's really, to understand who took us there. It was God. Nothing happens to us without God. And it's, we have to, it's to enable us to develop the vessels. וכן סובב והולך כל ספר דברים על כותב זה. And Moshe Rabbeinu, carries on in the whole of the book of Devarim on this idea. להזכיר את ישראל כל מה שהכניסו לפניו. To remind Israel in what way they fell down, ואף על פי כן לא יתייאשו עצמם מן הרחמים לעולם, but never to despair from God's mercy, okay? Because sometimes when we look at ourselves and we look at how we've fallen down and we look and see and we sort of seem to get stuck and go round and round in circles and we can't get out of the circle, it does make you feel a bit despairing sometimes. But he says, never despair. Because as we see, God's mercies never stopped. Even when the children of Israel made the golden calf, he didn't stop having mercy on them. And even with all the other sins, he dealt kindly with them, with his loving kindness. And it was with this sort of to and fro movement of developing the desire to come to God, seeing our limitations, seeing where we're falling down, develops the desire, and then through God's mercy, we're able to, get out of that particular area, and then we might fall down again in something else. And gradually, they had to the children of Israel built these vessels through the wilderness, okay, until they were able to come to Eretz Israel. So the children of Israel know that whatever passes over them until the day of the coming of Mashiach, bichlal as a community, or bifrat as an individual, akol echad ve'echad yeh ech sheyeh, for every single person, whoever he may be, Lo'olam al yityashu atzmam min rachamim, never despair from the mercy. Kamo shamu rabotenu, as the sages said, afilu chev chadam munachat al tzavro shel adam, al nimnat atzmo min rachamim. Even if a pointed sword is on the neck of a person, never despair from the mercy. Nevertheless, we should call out to God and pray to God before there's a judgment rather than after the judgment. But even if there's already a judgment, never ever stop to pray, because God doesn't give us trials in order to bring us down or to make us miserable or to cause us damage, God forbid. It's only there so we can create the vessel within ourselves to turn to him and to value the connection with him and to value the Torah. וזה שסיפר תפילותיו, אך התפלל והתחנן לפני השם יתברך, כמו שכתוב התנפל לפני השם. And Moshe Rabbeinu also pleaded with God, as he says, and I fell before God. הכל כדי לראות בני ישראל. And he did this to show the children of Israel. He told them, שיתחזקו בתפילה, that we should get strong and pray, and צעקה לשם, and call out to God, תמיד, כי רחמיו אינם קלים לעולם, for his mercies never stop, ever. So I wanted to read this together because also you know, in a very tense time in Israel right now, not so easy and a difficult time, but it really, really tells us how much God loves us, how much He has mercy on us, and how much we can pray to Him. Oh, there's things in the chat. There's one thing in the chat. Okay, right, now then. That was the first thing I wanted to bring. Just wondering which is the next thing to do. I think the next thing to do actually is to go to Tisha BAv. Okay? There's a lovely article, but it's quite long. So I'm not sure we're going to be able to do the whole thing, but again, it's very much talking about the vessel and the light. Okay? And this time in terms of Tisha BAv. So let's zoom in here. Okay. And this is a lovely, lovely article from Rabbi Bircat Shalom Ma'amarim. Ma'al ba'avodah. What does it mean in the service of God? Kol hamitabel al Yerushalayim. Whoever mourns for Jerusalem, zocheh v'ro'eh b'simchata. Merits to see her gladness. Chazal amru. The sages said in Masechet Ta'anit, Kol hamitabel al Yerushalayim, zocheh v'ro'eh b'simchata. Whoever mourns for Jerusalem merits to see her joy. Hine b'pashtut kasher lavin. In a simple way, this is rather difficult to understand. Betach hayu harbei tzadikim shitablu Yerushalayim. For sure, throughout the ages, there were many, many tzadikim who mourned for Jerusalem. V'al Yerushalayim lo livnata, adayin lo livnata. And Jerusalem is still not built. Now, he doesn't mean, obviously, the city of Jerusalem, because the city of Jerusalem is built, okay? And also in the time of Rabbi Bircat Shalom Ma'amarim, it was already built. What he means by Yerushalayim, he means the Beit HaMikdash, okay? The temple is still not built. So how can this phrase from statement of the sages from the Talmud actually be true, that everybody who mourns for Jerusalem merits to see her joy, when plainly in the physical reality over the ages, this wasn't, literally true. And probably through the literal way, there's all sorts of answers to this, but Rabbi Ashlag is always interested in how do we look at this in our inner work. How do we look at it in our service for God? Yadua shemalchut nikret Yerushalayim. It's known that the Malchut, which is another term for the Shekhinah, which is the gathering together of all the souls, okay, is called Yerushalayim. So the Shekhinah is called Yerushalayim. V'lachein churban Yerushalayim, and therefore the destruction of Jerusalem, Perusho al Beit HaMikdash nechrav, is about the temple which was destroyed. And the temple that's destroyed is again not about the physical temple, but it's about our inner connection with God. And this is called Shekhinta Ba'afra, that the Shekhinah is in the dust, that we're not valuing the presence of God in our lives as we should. Or Shekhinta Ba'galuta, or you can say the Shekhinah is in exile. Klomar, that is to say, that a person needs to take upon himself the yoke of the governance of heaven. ולהאמין שהקדוש ברוך הוא מנהיג את העולם בהשגחה שבחינת טוב ומיטיב. And he needs to believe that the Holy Blessed One conducts his world with a divine providence, that he is good and does good. היות שזה נסתר מאדם, since this is hidden from the person, על כן נמצאת אצלו מלכות זה בחורבן ובעפר. Therefore, we find that this governance is like lying in the dust, that it's not upright, that it's not functioning properly. Okay? Because why? Because the physical reality doesn't look like that. Okay? We see what happened on October 7th. We know that the hostages are still not back with us. We see the suffering of the soldiers who've been wounded. And we say, listen, God, okay? How do you want me to believe that you are conducting the world in the way of that everything is good and does good? And this fact is hidden from the human being. And because this fact is hidden, this Shekhinah is in dust because we don't have the faith. ומלכות משפט לנשמות ולבריאה יצירה עשייה. And it's the Shekhinah which needs to give the light to the souls and to Bria and to Yitzira and Asiyah, to all the worlds. וכל ההשפעות שבאות מלמעלה נבראים הם בחינת מלכות. All the goodness that comes from above to the created beings comes through the Shekhinah. נמצא לפי זה. So, because of this, המלכות אינה מכובדת אצל הנבראים, בגלל שלא רואים את חשיבותה. The Malchut is not honored by us because we can't see how important. מה היא משפעת עלינו? And we don't see what she gives us because we're looking only with our human, regular eyes, okay? And therefore, we don't value her. We don't value the Jerusalem. And this is what is meant by Jerusalem being destroyed. That we are not valuing the actions of God, the actions of the Shekhinah. כלומר, that is to say, במקום שאתה צריכה להשפיע טוב ועונג לנבראים, שכולם יראו את מעלתה, instead of seeing that God, she is giving goodness and joy to the created beings, that everybody then would see her virtue and her value. We don't reckon with it. We don't reckon with the divine providence because we can't see it. And likewise, she doesn't have anything to give because we're not valuing her. And this is what is said that we say on Nachem, on Tisha BAv, ואת אבלי ירושלים, ואת העיר האבלה, והחרבה והבזויה ושוממה. The mourners of Jerusalem, the mourning city, the destroyed city who is despised and desolate. היינו, שהכל חרב ונחרב. That we're not valuing the presence of God within. וזה נקרא שכינתה באפרה. This is the Shekhinah in the dust. לכן, בזמן שאדם צריך לקבל עול מלכות שמיים, therefore, when we need to take upon ourselves the yoke of the governance of heaven and to say, it's not what I see, it's not what I feel, I have to just do it in faith. יש התנגדות גדולה מצד הגוף. This just going in faith causes a tremendous resistance from the side of our ego, from the side of our personality. ולכן, אם אדם מתגבר, therefore, if a person nevertheless overcomes his personality, overcomes what he's seeing, overcomes everything, ומקבל על עצמו עול מלכות שמיים, and he takes upon himself the yoke of the governance of heaven, אף על פי שלא רואה שום חשיבות, even though he can't see it, okay? והוא מתאבל על זה, and he's so sorry. מדוע הוא כך? Why is it like this? למה כל כך נסתרת מאיתנו חשיבותה של ירושלים? Why is the importance of our inner Jerusalem, our inner temple, the divine experience of God within us, why is it so hidden from us? הוא מתפלל על זה, and he prays on this. מדוע אין חשיבות למלכות? Why don't we see the importance of the Shekhinah? ומבקש מהשם שיקים את ירושלים מעפר. And we ask God, raise up Jerusalem from the dust. Raise up the importance of the Shekhinah for us. She נמצאת בו, because the Yerushalayim is within us. בשיעור שאדם מצטער על חורבנה, and in the measure that a person is sorry about her destruction, הוא זוכה שהקדוש ברוך הוא ישמע תפילתו. He merits that the Holy Blessed One will hear his prayer. ואדם זוכה לראות אותה בשמחתה. And the person will merit to see her in her joy. היינו, what will he merit to see? She כן משפיע לו טוב ועונג. That she does bring him good and joy. נמצא, הפירוש יהיה, אותו אדם מצטער מתאבל על ירושלים, therefore the explanation is that the very same person who is so sorry and he's mourning for the Jerusalem within, and he asks, מדוע שכינתה באפרה? Why cannot I see that the providence of God is good and does good? Why do I not value the Shekhinah? Why is she in the dust? האדם הזה הוא זוכה לראות בשמחתה. Such a person merits to see her joy. כי אין אור בלי כלי. All right, this is the rule, for there is no light without a vessel. שיש לו כלי, and in order that that he will have a vessel, היינו החיסרון, he needs to feel the lack of the Shekhinah. מדוע שכינתה באפרה? Why is the Shekhinah in the dust? הוא מצטער על זה, and he's sorry about this. לכן הוא זוכה ורואה בנחמת ירושלים. Therefore, he merits to see the comfort of Jerusalem. And this is where I really, really saw the connection between the piece this is where I really saw the connection between the piece that we read in Rabbi Nachman to what the Tisha BAv, because God deliberately took them, the children of Israel, to these very difficult places where they sinned. Okay. I mean, and he takes us also as individuals on our journeys where we have difficult lives and we sin and we fall down. And yet there is a value, because when we, even in difficult places where we can't understand what's going on and we're falling down and we can't manage, if we can pray to God from that place, okay, and we say to God, listen, I'm not managing, I can't see what's going on, and I'm falling down, this is not where I want to be. What are we developing? The vessel, okay? What are we doing? We're mourning for our inner Jerusalem. And by that, we're building the vessel. And whoever mourns for Jerusalem, okay, merits to see her joy. That is to say, by not accepting the situation where we're finding the difficulties, okay, and to try to do what we can and what we can't to pray about it, okay? And that way we're building the vessels that we can merit to see the goodness of God within ourselves, and not only within ourselves, but within all the community together. Okay. You know, you can call out with any questions. All right. ובאמור יש לפרש. From this we can explain מה שכתוב, and this is from the Haftorah. And again, this Haftorah Hazon Yeshayahu is the one that we always read before Tisha BAv. ידע שור קונהו וחמו אבוס בעליו, ישראל לא יודע, עמי לא יתבונן. The ox knows his maker, and the donkey, his master's manger. Israel doesn't know. My people don't look. ויש להבין מה ההבדל בין שור לחמו בעבודה. So Rabbi Ashlag asks a question, what's the difference between an ox and a donkey in the work? Likewise, מה ההבדל בין ישראל לעמי בעבודה? What's the difference between, why did he say Israel doesn't know? My people don't understand. What's the difference between these two phrases? Avi Admori Mori was Rabbi Zatzal. That's my father and teacher of blessed memory said. That's Rabbi Yehuda Lev Ashlag. Avdil ben shor lachamohu. There's a difference between the ox and the ass. Shor nikra bechinat mocha. She bechinat emunah lamala me'adat. The ox, okay, uyodea shor konehu. He wants to know everything. That's the aspect which wants to know everything. So the tikkun, the rectification of the ox, is to go in faith. Emunah lamala me'adat. To use faith. Okay? Hamor ubechinat liba. Whereas the ass represents the aspect of the heart. What is the aspect of the heart? Haratzon lekabel, the will to receive, sensual comforts, entertainment, all of that, food, whatever. Shazel v'hamor avus ba'alav, and the donkey, his master's manger. Lefize yesh kan lavchin shtei bechinot. So here, what's the tikkun of that? The tikkun is giving unconditionally. Okay, so the tikkun of the mind, which wants to know everything, is to go in faith, and the tikkun of the heart, which wants to receive sensual pleasure, beyond what's necessary, is to give unconditionally. So here we can determine two aspects. Aleph, אלה שעובדים ומקיימים תורה המצוות בשביל שכר, נמצא העיקר שעלתם היא כמה שכר לקבל. There are people who want to work and do Torah mitzvot for getting a reward. And the main question is, what will I get? מה יהיה השכר? What's going to be the reward? האם כדאי לתת עבור השכר זה הגיעה בתורה mitzvot? Is it worth it to for this reward to work in Torah mitzvot? And two, אלו שרוצים לעבוד באמנת להשפיע. Those who wish to work for the sake of giving pleasure to the Creator. What does that mean? For the sake of coming to affinity of form with the Creator. For the sake of coming to unity with the Creator. מטעם מה שכתוב בזוהר הקדוש, for what is written in the Holy Zohar, begin דהיהו רב ושליט, because he is great. What is the greatness of God? He's great in loving kindness. He's great in mercy. V'shalit, he's the author of everything that happens. זאת אומרת שעובדים רק מטעם גדלות השם, that they are working only because they believe in the greatness of God. היינו שיש להם זכייה גדולה שמשמשים מלך גדול. They have a tremendous merit that they are serving the great king. נמצא, אלו שעובדים באמנת להשפיע כבר צריכים לדעת את מי הם עובדים. Therefore, those who are serving only for the sake of giving need to know who are they working for. היינו, אם הוא באמת מלך גדול וחשוב שכדאי לעבוד בשבילו. Is God truthfully a great and important king that we need to work for him? That is worthwhile to work for him? Ulam. No, I think there's a mistake here. I mean, that doesn't make sense. I'm not quite sure. Maybe let's carry on and see. I think there might be an issue here, right? Ulam bizman shematchilim לעבוד באמנת להשפיע. But when we are beginning to work for the sake of giving, I mean, the thing is what he's saying here, they're serving a great king, but I'm not sure what he means in that last sentence. Okay, how can we know that God is a great king? First of all, we have to believe. Okay, we can't just know, because that's the whole point of this article. Knowing is receiving. We have to, first of all, give. All right, so how can we give? We have to rely on what the sages tell us. We have to rely on the Torah. We have to rely on the sages and on the Torah, that through that we understand that we can give faith to God, all right, and to believe what's written, and to believe our sages who teach us. That's the way forwards. Okay, that's where the ability to have faith comes from. It has faith because of our sages, because of the tzaddikim who teach us, because of the Holy Torah, which gives us that. That's where we get the ability to have faith. Okay? So, bizman shematchilim lavod b'amanat lashpia, when we're beginning to work for the sake of giving, and the reason why we get power to do this work is because the importance of the Creator, that we have to believe in the importance of the Creator. Then the work begins, and okay, it's very difficult for us. On the contrary, what we see is the Shekhinah is in the dust. Klomar, במקום שהרוחניות, אנו לעבוד לתועלת השם, instead of spirituality, which is working only for the sake of God, הייתה צריכה להיות כל פעם יותר חשובה, and each time we do it, it needs to be greater. ועוד לאדם מחשבות כאלו שמראות את ההפך. What actually happens in practice is that we get all sorts of thoughts, which as if they're showing us the opposite. במקום שצריך ללכת כל פעם קדימה, and instead of being able just to walk each time forwards, או לעבוד ביתר שמחה, and to work with greater joy, היות שהוא משמש מלך גדול וחשוב, because we're serving a great and important king, ואם לא ציורים בלתי חשובים, we get all sorts of ideas in our mind that none of what we're doing is important. Why not? בגלל שהוא לא מרגיש את גדלותו יתברך, because he cannot feel the greatness may be blessed. וזה גורם לו ירידות כל פעם. And this causes the person spiritual descents. זאת אומרת, אפילו שמתקבל הירידות, כל מקום לא תמיד הוא יכול להחזיק מעמד. And this is exactly what we learnt in that article of Rabbi Nachman's. That even if we overcome the descents, nevertheless, we're not always able to, hang on there. ולכם עם המחשבות האלו, and to fight these thoughts. והמחשבות מראות לו בחינת שכינתה באפר. And these thoughts show the aspect of the Shekhinah in the dust. והוא רוצה לעבוד בשמחה, but the person wants to work in joy. בזה שהוא משמש מלך גדול וחשוב. And he wants to be able to think to himself that he's serving a great and important king. כי זה צריך להביא לו שמחה, that needs to bring him joy. But what is he actually feeling? הוא מרגיש ממש להפך. He feels the opposite. בחינת דחייה. He feels rejected. כלומר, כאילו דוחים אותו מעבודה, as if God is pushing him away from serving him. וזה שהוא מרגיש אותה כאילו דוחים אותו החוצה, נקרא שכינתה באפר. And this is because that he feels that God's pushing him away outside, not being able to serve him. That's the feeling of the Shekhinah in the dust. כי הוא מרגיש בעת שהוא רוצה לקבל על עצמו עול מלכות שמיים, because when he wants to take upon himself the yoke of the kingdom of heaven, ועוד לא כל השאלות של פרעה. All the questions of Pharaoh come into his mind. And what did Pharaoh ask? מי השם אשר אשמע בקולו? Who is God that I should listen to his voice? וזה נקרא שהמלכות, היינו השכינה, היא בגלות אצל פרעה מלך מצרים. And this appears that the Shekhinah is in exile by Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, שמראה את השפלות של המלכות שמיים. So we see the lowliness of the yoke of heaven. ואז צריך אדם רק לבקש מהשם. So then a person needs to ask God, שיבנה את המלכות, build up the מלכות. היינו שהמלכות לא תישאר בצורה של שפלות. Don't let the מלכות stay in this lowly place. כי מהשפלות הזו אין אדם יכול לקבל שמחה. Because from this lowliness nobody can get any joy. בזמן שהוא רואה שאין לה שום חשיבות. Because he sees nobody paying attention, nobody's giving importance. I can't give importance because I can't see what's happening. I'm not able to serve God. וזה נקרא שאדם צריך להתפלל על חורבן בית המקדש. So what do we need to do? We need to pray on the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash, on our own destruction. כלומר, מדוע כל העולם לא יכולים לראות את קבלת מלכות שמיים כדבר טוב? Why can't the world see that taking on the governance of heaven is a good thing? היינו שלעבוד לתועלת השם שיהיה מכובד. That is to serve for the sake of God, and that will be honorable and good and wonderful. כי כשאדם מתפלל על גלות השכינה, because when a first person prays on the exile of the Shekinah, אל להתפלל משהו אצלו באפרה. Don't pray just because by me it's in the dust, אלא אדם צריך להתפלל, מדוע היא כל כך בשפלות אצל כל העולם? Why is it in the dust for everybody? בשיעור שכל העולם לא חושבים בכלל על רוחניות. That so many people in the world are not thinking about spirituality at all. והוא מתפלל עבור כל העולם. So he prays for everybody in the world. כמו שאנו מתפללים, ובני ירושלים עיר קודש במהרה בימינו. Rebuild Jerusalem, the holy city, speedily in our days. Rebuild the value of serving God. That's what we're asking to rebuild. שזה יהיה לכבוד לכל העולם. That it will be valued by the whole world. כמו שכתוב בתפילת ראש השנה, as we pray in the תפילה of ראש השנה, מלוך על כל העולם כולו בכבודך, reign over all the world in your glory. ועוד שאין הכלל מרגישים את החיסרון, אין הם יכולים להתפלל. And if the general community or the world is not feeling this lack, they can't pray for it. But אלא האדם הזה שזכה להשיג על כל פנים בחינת חיסרון, but if a person merits at least to attain at least the lack, היינו שהשיג את הגלות, that he merited to attain the feeling of exile, לכן הוא יכול לבקש הגאולה. He's the one who's able to ask for the redemption. מה שאין כן, אלו אנשים שלא מרגישים שיש גלות, whereas people who can't feel the exile, איך הם יכולים לבקש יוצאים מהגלות? How can they ask to get out of the exile? נמצא זה שאדם מרגיש שהוא נמצא בגלות. Therefore, we see that when a person feels how he cannot do it and he's rejected and he feels himself to be in exile, נקרא בזה עלייה בדרגה. That's actually, he's gone up a level. ועליו מוטל לבקש מילוי עבור הכלל כולו. It's his responsibility to ask for fulfillment for all the world, for all the community. וזה עניין, כל המתאבל לירושלים זוכה ורואה בשמחתה. And this is the issue that whoever merits to mourn over Jerusalem merits to see her joy. כלומר, על ידי זה שהוא מרגיש את גלות השכינה, because he feels the exile of the Shekhinah. He feels it for himself, he feels it for the community. הוא מתאבל. And he's so sorry, and he mourns, and he prays for everybody. He will merit to see her joy, and through him, other people too. Because regarding the vessels, regarding the lack, regarding the vessel to receive the light, he's got the vessel, which is ready for redemption. For the issue of the vessel means the lack which is necessary in order to appreciate the fulfillment. He mourns over the fact that he feels how the Shekhinah is in exile. That we don't see the importance of serving God. And what do we find? That whoever wants to take upon himself the yoke of the governance of heaven, begin to shalit, that because God is great in mercy and he's the root of everything, the governor of everything. What actually happens in practice, he gets all sorts of thoughts, all sorts of imaginings, which push him out of holiness. And only by really pushing himself, and forcing himself to go in faith, he's able to sort of like hold on. And whenever he really wants to believe that God's providence is in the aspect of he is good and God does good, come all sorts of thoughts that speak slander against God. And it hurts him. What does he need to feel to hear this Lashon Hara? Why does he get these negative thoughts in his mind? And he believes that this is because the other nations within himself, his will to receive for himself alone, are governing, are taking control over the holy point, the point of holiness in his heart. Hanu sheyesh hastara, which causes concealment. Because whoever wants to come and serve the service of God, then the klipot come and hide the importance of kedusha. It's exactly what happened to the children of Israel on their way in the wilderness. Nimtza shedavka adam hamitabel zakuk le'achamei shamayim. We find that the person who is mourning needs the mercy of heaven. Shetiye yacholet biyado litgabel hara shebo, that he will have the ability to overcome the evil which is within him, which is his own will to receive for himself alone. And he mourns and he cries that God should help him. But not for himself alone. He needs to pray for the Kalal, for the Shekhinah, for the Malchut, for all together. Because if he just prays for his own hurt, for his own sorrow, for his own difficulty, then he's only praying for his own self-use. It's forbidden for him to pray that only he should get out of his own exile. And if he's praying for the prayer for use of God, that the glory of God should be revealed in the world, he can't just pray for himself. Therefore, a person needs that the glory of God should be present for all the world. It should be okay. All right. I think is about as far as we can go because it's a very long article. All right, but I think we get the idea. All right. That's as you know, I don't want to go into the next piece, all right, because we're not going to manage it in for a few minutes. All right, so I think I just want to stop there for the moment for this time. Okay. All right. Anybody got any questions, thoughts about it?
So this article is really our experience now with preparing for Tisha BAv.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right. So I often wonder, it's like how many people awakening would be enough to tip the scales? Like
Oh,
how many people have to be mourning and
that's an
understand what
yeah, yeah. That's an interesting question, isn't it? Um, that's an interesting question. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if anybody knows the answer to that. I think that there's two aspects. There's quality and there's quantity. Okay.
Right. Mhm.
And it's very clear to me that quality has a very important power because if you think about the balance between the tzaddik and the rasha, okay?
Right.
All right. So you can look inside yourself or you can look outside in the world. It doesn't really matter. It's very clear that we have much more wills to receive for ourselves alone than we have the tzaddik, the tzaddik within us. The tzaddik is the soul within us, and we have lots and lots and lots and lots of wills to receive for ourselves alone. So you can say the tzaddik, there's the Shekinah is one, you know, ahati yonati tamati, she's one, my dove. Okay, whereas the wills to receive for ourselves alone are considered the 70 nations within ourselves. Or we can also have the outside. If you look in the world, how many tzaddikim we have and how many rashaim we have. Okay, clearly more rashaim than tzaddikim. So looking in terms of quantity, the balance is always on the side of the rashaim. But if you look in terms of quality, the power of the tzaddik clearly outweighs the power of the rashaim. There's no question about that, because in order for us to have free choice, they've always got to be in balance. So if we look inside ourselves, the tzaddik might only have one aspect of the tzaddik, which is the soul, but the power of one good deed against all my negative stuff is enormous. Rabbi Ashlag in one of these articles, he writes, if people only knew the power of one good deed done unconditionally, it changes everything. It changes reality. So I think that the focus needs to be on doing the best we can and being as much as we can on the side of the tzaddik within ourselves, and joining with the other tzaddikim who for sure in the world and the tzaddikim who've taught us, and Bezrat Hashem, then and then it's in God's timing.
Yeah.
Bezrat Hashem. Okay,
that's all work.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. That was really good.
Oh, you're welcome. Has anybody else got anything they'd like to ask or share or anything?
I always look for the current situation because otherwise it's very abstract. How can you mourn something you really not attached to? I mean, in terms of the temple, we know it by brain, but the heart is in current situation. So
That's
what
very,
you're
yeah.
what you're saying is, and we have a lot of tzaddikim here on a regular basis in Israel, but we also know, and this is devastating, what this cruel people doing to our soldiers and by arresting them, and it's just devastating. So what is Hashem's view on us? I'm asking $1,000,000 question.
So, okay, so I think that it's really valuable what Rabbi Baruch Shalom Ashlag here is saying. And what he's telling us is that you've got the outer aspect, you've got the inner aspect. Okay. So everything in the world has an outer aspect and an inner aspect. And I agree with you, Tatiana, for 2,000 years, we haven't had a temple. So to mourn for the temple is definitely difficult. But the Zohar says very clearly that the Torah doesn't come to teach us history. It's not about history. It's not about stones. It's not about buildings. It's about serving God. And what was the temple or the Mishkan? It was the Shekhinah. It was the dwelling place of God within. And as we learn in Shemot, build me a Mishkan that I can dwell within you, that I can dwell within the children of Israel. So Rabbi Ashlag says, we need the Mishkan within us. We need to mourn. Why am I not valuing the presence of God within myself?
Right.
Now, as you said very rightly, there are plenty of people out there who are not valuing God within themselves. And we can't do much about that, but we can work on ourselves. Because why is it valuable to work on ourselves? Because God created one soul, the soul of Adam. That was the one soul he created. And after we ate from the tree, Adam ate and Eve ate from the tree of knowledge, that one soul split into all the souls of the human community, past, present, and future. What does it mean? It means that actually all the individual people that we see, people are doing good and some people are doing really awful, okay, are all part of the one soul. And I'm part of that one soul too, which means that if each individual can work on himself or herself, if we can work on ourselves, that absolutely 1,000% has to affect everybody else, okay? Because we're part of the one organism. We're not different. We're part of that one organism. And therefore, if one aspect works on ourselves and we mourn and we want and ask for the presence of the divine to come within us, then that of necessity will bring the change the consciousness of the outer.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Nobody's got their video on, so it's kind of strange. Can anybody put their video on so I can say hello?
Because we're not in the best, it's late.